of many in Israel, and for a sign which shall be spoken against. See, Christ, when he came, he even says it himself, I come not bearing peace but a sword, to set household against household. I'm paraphrasing, but brother against sister and mother against, anything that you could think of. Because when Christ came, and he was teaching these things in the temple that the Pharisees spoke out against, such as working on the Sabbath day was a really huge one. Where he would heal on the Sabbath and what have you. I've shared the story with you. You've read it yourself, so I'm sure, about how they sought to trap him, by healing on the Sabbath day. When Jesus asked them a question that they couldn't answer. Is it lawful to do that? Or is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath day? And if they were to say, yes, it's lawful to heal on the Sabbath day, then they would have just contradicted themselves to the congregation, because they've told them, no, you can't work on the Sabbath day. And if they were to say, no, it's not lawful to heal on the Sabbath day, and Jesus was able to heal them, that meant God allowed it to happen, because all these miracles would have to come from God. So if they said, no, it's not lawful to heal on the Sabbath day, and somehow he was able to heal, that meant God had ordained it to happen. So that would mean that they were wrong. So either way, they were in trouble, whether they said yes or no. So they shut up. Anyways, continuing on. Yea, a sword shall pierce through thy... this is the part that I like. Let me just read this one again. Set for the fall and rising again of many in Israel, and for a sign which shall be spoken against. Now this passage in 35 is one of the very few times that I believe the author, Luke, is actually addressing the reader. It says, yea, a sword shall pierce through thine own soul also. Referring to the people reading this, I believe. When, again, going back to Christ saying, we're not bearing peace but a sword. Going back to this passage where it speaks against thy own, or through thine own soul. Now then, what is the soul? We know, or from my understanding, it's our cognitive and decision-making ability. We could go and look at Acts chapter 5 when it speaks about all the people being of one soul, meaning that they were all on the same page. They had the same agenda on what they were going to do. We're going to go and we're going to preach the gospel. The gospel being good news. We're going to tell people the good news about this man Jesus, about the resurrection. Amen. Continuing on, about it talking about our souls and how it'll set. I'll read it. A sword shall pierce through thine own soul also. Meaning, it's going to change the way you think. To the people that would be reading this is going to change the way you think about things. Your understanding of the Old Testament is going to change. And we know that because the Pharisees, they taught all sorts of crazy things and wild things. Because, how was it explained? You're not allowed in the street because the street's dangerous, right? So parents, instead of saying you're not allowed in the street, they would say you're not allowed on the tree lawn. They would set up an invisible fence, sort of, They'd set up a barrier in the child's mind saying you're not allowed on the tree lawn. Because if you're not anywhere near the tree lawn, that means you can't be in the street.
Near the street, yeah.
So what the Pharisees would do is they would do that same thing to the law. And one of the examples that I use the most is the pulling of the chair. You're not allowed to plow the fields on the Sabbath day. So we're going to take that a step further back. We're going to say you're not allowed to drag a chair on the Sabbath day. Because if you drag a chair, it'll push the dust out of the way. So what they were doing is they were setting up a fence. But that's another story for another day. Now here's where it gets good. And there was one Anna, a prophetess, the daughter of Phanuel, and of the tribe of Asher. She was of a great age, and had lived with a husband 7 years from her virginity. And she was also a widow of about 84 years, which departed not from the temple, but served God with fasting and prayers night and day. This is talking about somebody that was married for a time, but then she lost her husband, obviously a widow. But notice how long it says that she was in the temple. 84 years. And she departed not from the temple, but served God with fasting and prayer night and day. Now the question that I would propose to you is, what was the significance of mentioning her in this particular passage? Well, she was a prophetess, chosen by God to give a message to the people.
Well, what's the score?
Hmm?
What's the score?
The score?
The score, yeah. You said four scores?
Here, I'll tell you what it is. 84 years, what that means is 40 and 4.
Yep.
You know, such as the Roman numerals and what have you.
Oh, I know
So it
that.
means 44 years.
I know that.
Anyways, going back to where I was at, fasting and prayer. She was inside this temple for over 44 years, praying. Fasting and praying for 40 years. Now then, the Bible doesn't straight up say it, but this is my belief. You know, you can take it or leave it how you want, but the Bible mentions things for a particular reason. She was a prophetess in the sense that she had to give a word, and this is the word that she's going to give, but I'll tell you what I was thinking about the fasting and prayer later. It says in the 38th verse, and she coming in that instant gave thanks likewise unto the Lord, and spoke of him to all them that looked for redemption in Jerusalem. I'm sorry, let me read that again. Thanks likewise unto the Lord, and spake of him to all that looked for redemption in Jerusalem. Meaning, the people that sought redemption. Meaning, the very practice of the two turtle doves being killed, because that was the redemption for the child. She said, if you seek redemption, seek Jesus. That was the message. She was a prophetess. To tell the people that there is only redemption in Christ. Now going back to the fasting and prayer, I personally tend to believe, that a lot of her fasting and a lot of her prayer was the reason Christ came when he did. Now then, that's, there's a reason why it mentions that she was doing all this fasting and all this praying for all this time. It could have just mentioned that she was a prophetess and that she had this word that if you sought redemption, it particularly told her, and not of this other man, that blessed Jesus and performed the circumcision. Anyways, moving on. It says, and when they had performed all things according to the law of the Lord, they returned unto Galilee, in their own city, Nazareth. And the child grew and waxed strong in spirit, filled with wisdom, and the grace of God was upon him. Even at a young age, he was still the Messiah. He was still the promised one. He was still favored of the Lord. He grew old and he was able, to learn things. And we're going to see something pretty marvelous when he was 12 coming up. Now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up to Jerusalem after the custom of the feast. And when they had fulfilled the days and they returned, the child Jesus tarried behind in Jerusalem, and Joseph and his mother knew it not. Meaning, they were there with him, and then they simply left. And it was just the three of them from my understanding. And when they had fulfilled the days... They're in the caravan, I'm sorry. But regardless, it was their son. They should have known that he was there.
Yes.
But for whatever reason it was, their own son, Jesus, the Messiah, after seeing all these promises, surely they'd keep a close eye on him. But they lost him.
If you read it, it says they supposed that he was with other men.
Absolutely. It says that but they supposing him to have been in the company, went a day's journey, and they sought him among their kinsfolk and acquaintances. Meaning this is after they looked for him. But here, I'll read on. It says, and when they found him not, they turned back again to Jerusalem seeking him. Meaning they had to stop and turn around to come back to get him. Find that it was some time. And it came to pass that after 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors. Or when it speaks about doctors, it's talking about the lawyers. Or talking about those that knew the law. Both hearing them and asking them questions. And all that heard him were astonished at his understanding and answers. Implying that they were even asking him questions that he was still able to give an answer to.